Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for your compelling presentation. I think most has been said. I will just maybe repeat a few points. The first is that what we are looking at right now, as all previous speakers have highlighted, is not a wait and see scenario. The human rights situation on the ground is already grave, complex, and fast evolving. The time to act is now. Of course, there will be a time to act in the future, but to expect that the situation right now does not require a strong or indeed the strongest possible answer, I think is extremely misplaced and sending the very wrong message. I am not going to repeat the litany of violations that have been highlighted already by my predecessors in that event, just to point out that in the space of a few weeks, just in the space of a few weeks, we are already witnessing a large number of violations which indicate an ideological framework and basis that has not shifted from what it used to be more than 20 years ago. And therefore, we know how bad and how very bad it will get, and it is already pretty awful. Second, therefore, it is essential that the right and strong message be sent now. It is clear that international human rights monitoring now is already critical, given the prevailing climate of fear, given the lack of mobile connectivity, the internet blackout, given the fact that networks of contact have gone silent out of fear or because they have left or seeking to leave the country. Human rights monitoring is extraordinarily important right now. It is crucial that we be back on the ground so that we can reestablish those networks and can collect the information that is so needed for the international community to make critical decisions, including on those that have been raised by Fionnuala Ní Amhaillen in relation to sanction. In addition to that documentation, the preservation of that information, the preservation of evidence is also critical to send a clear message to the Taliban that international crimes do not go unnoticed or unpunished, to ensure that the international community is informed as best as it can when it makes important decisions in the coming weeks regarding its relationship to the Taliban and the nature of that relationship to the Taliban, to support those that have been on the front line of fighting for human rights for the last 20 years and are still very much so on the front line right now, but on their own. And they continue to do their work at significant personal risk. For those reasons, current documentation and preservation is absolutely crucial. And this is why Amnesty International, together with the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission, together with ICJ, Human Rights Watch, and 60 other organizations from around the world, have been urging the Human Rights Council to establish a robust investigative mechanisms. It is essential that that mechanism be in pair with the challenges that we are confronting. And I'm not going to repeat what Fionnuala has just said about what Special Rapporteur can achieve. I was one myself on extrajudicial executions less than a year ago, and we can do some great stuff. But the situation in Afghanistan is absolutely not meant for the work of a special rapporteur. It just doesn't, it's not fit. What we can do, what they can do, sorry, is not fit for the current situations. I was in Geneva last week. I have repeated that message to almost everyone I have met. You need to have a mechanism that is fit for the environment. And that mechanisms must be well resourced. It must be on the ground. It must have ears on the ground. It must have feet on the ground. It must be large enough that it can cover a fairly large countries with huge challenges. It must also be politically commensurate with the nature of the challenge. It must send a message to the Taliban and to others that this is not business as usual, that the international community is absolutely prepared to take stock of the current situation and to send the right message to a government that is also not currently recognized. I would like to reiterate the fact that there is a momentum right now, in my view, that the international community can be more ambitious than it seems to be prepared to be, that it can trade on and use the little power that it has at its disposal to push for a mechanism that will be able to deliver what is needed given the context. It doesn't have to be called an FFM, fact-finding mission. It doesn't matter what it's called, the precise name, the precise formulation, provided it can get the job done. And in order to get the job done, like I said, it needs to have resources, it needs to have people on the ground, it needs to have a political recognition, it needs to be able to report authoritatively to the Human Rights Council, to the Security Council, and to a range of other decision making. It must have an investigative mandate, it must have an investigative capacity, including on a range of international legal issues, from human rights to humanitarian to criminal law. It must be properly empowered to contribute to accountability. That is what is needed. That is what is needed to deliver the message that the Taliban needs to hear, and it's what is needed for the people of Afghanistan, for the human rights of defenders of Afghanistan, for the activists of Afghanistan that are still inside the country and will be prepared to provide information even where their life is at risk. But to do so, we need to have in place a mechanism that will be able to act on the risk that they themselves will take. We cannot let them down. We cannot let them down one more time. Please act courageously. Thank you.